Welcome back to Legacy Leaders. This is Juan, and today's topic is the black sheep, the one who breaks the cycle. You ever feel like you don't belong, like you think different, move different, want more than you were raised around? That's good. That means you were meant to fit in. You were meant to change everything. This is Legacy Leaders, and today we're talking about the black sheep, the one they misunderstood, judged, and doubted, but the one God chose to break the cycle. Shoot, I like this one right here because I definitely can fit it into this topic that we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about, and you guys are going to listen. Because sometimes we mislabel that. We misunderstand that meaning of the black sheep. Sometimes we think that black sheep is that the one who did wrong and did a bunch of bad things in his life. And sometimes it could be correct, But I like to say that everything that I've done gave me purpose, gave me reason, and gave me knowledge, wisdom to be able to spread it to people and give that wisdom back and help people not have to go through what I went through and help people change people's lives. So I don't see me as a black sheep. I see myself as a black sheep because I want to, awaken those people around me, awaken my family, have them think differently, and break those generational curses that have been passed down from generation to generation. And leave that next generation to come with that mentality, a better mentality, to go after what they want, to be able to express themselves more, and to me I definitely, like I said, I fit into this topic, and I love it. It's one of my favorites I'm going to do. Being the black sheep isn't a curse, it's a calling. You see things others ignore. You question what others accept. You feel uncomfortable in environments that everyone else settles in. And you ask yourself why? Because you weren't built to repeat the past. You were built to rewrite it. And I like that it says why you question things. A lot of people don't question what's going on. They just accept it. You gotta question things sometimes. You gotta ask why. And as kids, we were raised not to, question our parents. And I'm not saying to question your parents, they know the reason behind it, but sometimes a why. Just want to know. I'm not going to change something, but I would like to know. So you get more of an understanding. Especially in your jobs, you can always ask why. I want to know the why behind it, like at the place that I work at, we have, recipes, and there's a why behind everything. And those little details, there's a phrase that a great mentor says, legendaries in the details, and that's why it's the why behind everything we do, because we want to leave a legendary experience to the people that come to eat at a restaurant. We want them to have the best experience possible, so those whys are important. But also, you're gaining that knowledge behind it, what you're asking the why. Of course, there's going to be some times where we can't ask the why, and it's just the way it is. But sometimes, in our mind, we do question it, and you start waking up a little bit. But let's keep it real. Being the black sheep comes with isolation, judgment, being labeled too much or changed. People think you're better than them. But here's the truth. You didn't change. You woke up. And when you wake up, you can't go back to sleep just to make others comfortable. Make others comfortable. That's where a lot of people will walk away from you because you make them feel uncomfortable because you're moving in a different path because your motion is different, And a lot of people ain't going to feel comfortable when you wake up and you decide to make that change. Be that person who breaks those cycles. A lot of people are comfortable with just, going with the norm, living the day by day and not willing to question nothing. Willing to accept what, is brought to them when we can change. We have 24 hours in a day to change our lives. Why not do it? Why not question it? Why not move different? Why not break those curses? Why not break those curses to leave your family in a better place? Because we're all here today, but tomorrow's not promised. So why not leave a legacy? Why not build that legacy? Why not pass that knowledge to your kids, to your grandkids, to your niece and nephews, even to your cousins? There's a lot of people you can eat friends. A lot of people out there you can change their way of thinking. But understand, A lot of people don't want to accept it because they want to be the sheeps. They're willing to follow. They're not willing to go outside of that herd and go do their own thing. Because they taught us that getting a 9 to 5 is the right thing. Hoping for a retirement plan is the right thing. But in reality, it's not. When you start researching and looking up all these successful people, they decided to do something different. They were awake during their time. They were gaining more knowledge. They were willing to ask the why. They're willing to go for more. And that's what makes a difference when you decide to wake up and become more. Let's break it down. The black sheep is usually the one who starts healing generational trauma, seeks God or spirituality deeper, walks away from toxic cycles, chooses discipline over destruction. That's why it feels lonely, because you're walking away. You're walking a path no one before you had the courage to do. And it's hard. It gets lonely. You're going to have those battles by yourself, because a lot of people ain't going to understand you. You're going to be misunderstood so much in your life, but that's okay, because you're going down that path and you know your life is going to be different from everybody else who's willing to be on the same path and go down that line. I know you guys seen those memes where there's a big old line at one spot and the other spot is empty because people ain't willing to go through that. People want to feel comfortable. People ain't willing to be different because they want to fit in with the rest. You got to be willing to make your own trend, be your own style, be authentic. And that's the word I'm going to hit y'all with. Be authentic. Be who you're supposed to be, not what society wants you to be, not what your job wants you to be. Be yourself. Make your mark. Make that change. Really think about that one. Be authentic. Be willing to break those curses. Be willing to walk that path that nobody else is willing to walk. Because I can bet you when you do it, the rewards are going to be amazing. It's not going to be easy. Believe me, it's not going to be easy. I can tell you from personal experience, I've been through so much, it's never been easy. I've been beat down, but I get up every single day and go after what's mine. I'm willing, and I'm always going to be willing, because I got a purpose behind everything I do. And that's always going to be my parents. So I'm willing to break those curses. Make my parents break those curses. So we can leave a legacy and live a better life than we already have. Stop waiting for your family to understand you. They might not. Stop shrinking so you can fit into rooms you've outgrown. Stop explaining your version to people who are committed to staying the same. You are not here to be accepted. You are here to transform. Oof, let me take a little sip to that one. Stop shrinking so you can fit into rooms you've outgrown. Sometimes we're in that comfort zone and we're not willing to move. Because we're comfortable. Because no one tells us nothing. But what are you going to learn from those people who have been there for the past 15, 20 years and they're in the same position? People who've been working for 30, 40 years, what are you going to learn? And I'm not knocking a job. Never am going to knock a job because I'm still grinding. I'm still hustling. But I'm always putting myself in situations and going to rooms where people are smarter than me, got more knowledge than me. But I'm always asking them the why. How did you do it? Because I want that information. I'm trying to learn from the best because I'm trying to be the best. I'm trying to be in their spot and do what they've done. And if I can do even more, best believe I'm going to go after it. I really am. So stop shrinking yourself to play small when we were meant to be big. We were meant to have more. We were meant to be more. So don't ever shrink because your friends ain't willing to change, because your family ain't willing to change. Go after it. Get uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's really what it is. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Be comfortable with being misunderstood. Because that is going to lead you to bigger places, like I said. Even in the Bible, the chosen one were always set apart. David wasn't the favorite. Joseph was betrayed. and Jesus was rejected. Being chosen has never looked like being understood. It looks like standing alone and standing firm. Oof. Oof. He was rejected. He went to his own place, his own home, you could say his own hometown, and people did not accept him. But that didn't stop him. He kept on going. He kept on going. And when you realize that, why not you? Really think about it. Why not you? David wasn't the favorite, but we know the end story of that one. Really think about it. If he was rejected and not accepted, well, what do you think is going to happen to you? But are you willing to go down that path? Are you willing to accept it and go forward? Being misunderstood for a while until you make it to where you got to be. And guess what? Everybody's going to understand you. Everybody's going to cheer you on. Everybody's going to say, yeah, I believed him. You're going to hear noise coming all over the places. But sometimes we need to be misunderstood for a bit. Understand that you need to step out that comfort zone. Let's get into some questions real quick. When did you realize you were the black sheep? And as I say these questions, really ask yourself the same thing. When did you realize you were the black sheep? Man, I could probably say since I was little, I never felt like I wanted to be an average person. I had big dreams. I still do. I dream every single day. Every single day I'm always out here dreaming, always thinking, but I'm putting the work behind everything that I do. But as a kid, I didn't see myself having a 9-to-5 or working the rest of my life. I knew I had to work, don't get me wrong. I knew I was going to have to get a job and grind it for a little bit. And still grind it, But I never seen myself or thinking of a retirement at a job, a secure job. That's not me. I had dreams of being a Mexican singer, Being that Mexican singer. I love to sing, so I wanted to be that Mexican singer. I seen myself on stages making, videos and all this stuff. And funny part is, here I am today, right? Making podcasts and being able to be on stages and talking to people about my life and the things that I've been able to overcome and what's really helped me. So that I could tell you, since a kid, I always knew I was meant to be different. Even my dad knew I was meant to be different. I was always going to grind and get mine. I was that quiet kid who observed everything. Never said nothing, but I observed everything, and I tried to understand things. Could have been my own perspective, but I was trying to understand things. I never asked the why, but I always stayed quiet and I always listened to everybody speak. And still to this day, I do the same thing. People say that I'm a very quiet person, but that's because I'm observing my surrounding, trying to understand how everybody thinks. And like I said earlier, sometimes people are going to think we're better than them. We're not. But sometimes I try to understand the level of thinking, because I don't want to say the wrong thing to offend someone or hurt someone's feeling, because it's the way I think. Or sometimes I might say the truth and it might hurt someone. So I really stay quiet and observe it when I speak around people or when I'm hanging out with new people, because I don't want to say this wrong thing, because people are probably going to say, well, he thinks he's better than us. Oh, look at him. But sometimes it's just that confidence that you have in yourself, because you've gone through so much and you've seen a lot. So you have that confidence. What did it cost you to think differently? Shoot, I can tell you it cost me a lot. Not money-wise. Nope, not money-wise. But my circle, the people that surrounded me, my lifestyle, myself. Because for years, I lived this lifestyle. I'm never going to say I'm not proud of, because it made me the person who I am today. I had to go through those paths and that journey in order to become who I am. So everything I've done, I embraced it. I talk about it. It's part of my life. It's part of my journey. But like I said, it made me who I am. But it cost me a lot. Years of I could tell you, years of experience that I've learned. But when I decided to wake up and change and get into a different mindset, and break those generational curses, get into that spirituality, a lot of people left me. You could say friends or people who surrounded me. All of them were gone, but I kept a few. I could tell you probably five people in my hand, my fingers right here. I could tell you that's probably the most people that I have surrounded me. But those people are solid people. But a lot of people left because they thought I was better than them. A lot of people thought I was crazy because I started speaking about these things. Because I started talking differently. I used to cuss all the time. I used to cuss like a sailor, but I stopped cussing. I started getting information to make me different, to think different, become different. Started reading a lot of books, started going to seminars, conventions, and started really trying to think different. Started trying to think like the millionaires think, because that's who I want to become. And people are gonna say, "Oh, he's talking about money, all this that." I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for the lives that I can change. How many lives can I impact before I leave? And Ben Davis always says it. How many lives can I change before I leave? And we're on the same path. Like I said, shout out to Ben. When you watch this, you start thinking differently, and it's going to cost you a lot. And you got to understand that you are going to be lonely. A lot of people ain't going to surround you, but we're like a magnet. We attract the good. So when you start thinking this way, believe me, a lot of people are going to, not a lot, but you're going to have people come towards you thinking that same way, vibing on the same frequency as you are. And you guys are going to understand each other. And that's when your friendship starts to build. Family might separate from you because they're going to say, oh, like I said, think he's better than us. Oh, look at him. He thinks all these other little, things that people are going to say. Have you ever felt guilty for outgrowing your environment? I'll tell you that one right there, never in my life. I feel happy that I outgrew that environment, because that environment was just drugs, addiction, a bunch of, bad influences that I'm glad I left it. I'm glad for the new circle that I found. And believe me, I still got friends that I hit up and I check up on constantly. And sometimes I don't hit them constantly because, as grown-ups, adults, we're living, we're grinding, we're trying to make things happen. So we understand, that we don't always got time to hit each other up and check up on each other. But I'm happy that I left that darkness, you can say. That darkness that I left, and I found the light. I'm in an enlightened moment. Because I can tell you, if I kept on living that life, I wouldn't have been able to be a manager, be able to manage and do the stuff that I've done. Because my mindset, my mentality wasn't there. I knew it was gonna happen, but I wasn't there yet. So I'm glad that I was able to leave that circle, and now I'm able to inspire people, motivate people, push people forward, and help them leave that darkness and come to the light. And I could tell you, it's an amazing feeling when you're able to talk about it and move that certain way. How do you stay strong when your own people doubt you? Hey, we've always said, no matter what your religion, but I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ and my Lord and Savior, up top. But if they rejected Jesus, then why would you feel some type of way if they reject you? He was rejected from his own people. They didn't understand him. And I'm not comparing myself to him. But if he had to go through that cycle in order to leave his legacy, to leave that impact, well, what do you think's what's gonna happen to us? We gotta embrace it. And you know what? People ain't gonna understand until you make things happen. And eventually, when you make things happen, best believe a lot of people are gonna come out of the darkness and be like, "Oh, I knew him. Oh, I seen him from the start. I always believed in him." And you know the true story behind everything that happened, and it's okay. Being misunderstood, that's gonna be part of your life when you're trying to always come up. When you're always trying to make something different, you're always gonna be misunderstood. People ain't gonna understand you. Do you believe being the black sheep is a burden or a blessing? It's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's the biggest blessing you could think about. Why do I say that? Because you're changing your life, you're changing your family's life, you're changing those generations to come's life, and those people who surround you, you're changing lives. So it's a blessing, it's not a burden. Sometimes people take longer to wake up than others, and sometimes people don't ever wake up, and they live that cycle the rest of their life. So it's a blessing to be able to be awoke and be able to change other people's mentality, people's mindset, your family's mindset, and make sure that your family to come and your family can break those generational curses and become more. Because we were all placed in this world to have more. But sometimes our mentality stops us because we think so small and we don't think we can obtain things. We don't go after it. But if everything in this planet was placed here, what do you think that means? If you grind for it, if you work for it, and you never stop, you can obtain the things that you want. But always be willing to put the work in. Always be willing to grind it and never stop. And let's talk a little bit about it. You know, there's this book I love, and it was a book that really changed my way of thinking. It made me think outside that box even more than I already had. It's called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Whew, that book is straight dynamite, straight knowledge. And we're talking about being woke, right? That book is going to wake you up because it talks about the school system. And what I mean by the school system, you know, I'm not going to knock school. I went to school, I graduated from college. But in reality, what does school help us with? And if you want to go to college and get a degree and all that, that's fine. Go for it. But really think about it. What does school teach us? School teaches us to be good listeners and not think outside the box. It teaches us to follow, not to lead. You go to school for 8 hours. You get you can say, depending on whatever, you know, depending first grade to fifth grade, from 6th to 8th, and then you know how it goes. But from 1st to 5th, you get that recess, which is your 30-minute break. You get those little break times, which are your 2 10s. They give you a test at school, and if you get it wrong, they get you in trouble. But in reality, when you think about life, they don't give us a test. We get a test every single day, but we get in trouble, but we learn. We learn from everything. Because the school doesn't teach us to manage our money. It doesn't teach us all these things that we learn as adults once we leave high school. They taught us to be good listeners and follow the rules. Sometimes you gotta break the rules. Sometimes you gotta be willing to go outside of the box and do something different. School makes good employees. They don't make good entrepreneurs, people who are willing to bet on themselves. That's why sometimes they say the best employees are those A and B students, because those C and D students are out here creating something for themselves. Why? Because they were willing to listen. They were willing to follow directions. And those C and D students decided to make those big companies that we know. They deliver package to your houses. You order online. They got cars. You know, all these things, you know, that they decided to do. Those were people who were good at school. There were people who were willing to bet on themselves and do something different. When everybody was walking that path, they were willing to take that road that was not walked through. And then that book, Outwitting the Devil, man, it talks about religion. And regardless of, like I said, or whatever your religion is, but you really think about it, religion shows you to be scared of who? I ain't gotta say it, but you know who I'm talking about. But why put fear in someone? That gives them the power. It gives them power when you put that fear into the people outside, and you talk about that. Now we fear him, but when we have fear, he has control. When he has control, he moves us. So really think about it. And like I tell people, I believe in God. I believe it's my Lord and Savior, you know. But They talk about what they want to talk about to be able to control, to be able to move you. They don't really say what it's meant to be said, how it was written. And people are going to say, oh, the Bible was written by people, this and that. But it's a book that gives you the blueprint towards the life that you want to have. If you really understand it, if you really follow it. Are we all perfect? No, nobody's perfect. There was only one person that was perfect, and he was crucified. So we need to understand, if we follow that blueprint, we can have a lot. We talk about abundance. We talk about gratitude. We talk about all these things, and that's what it talks about. And when you're able to, manifest things and visualize things, you start having a lot. And I love that book. Why? Because it was written in around the 1920s to 30s, but it wasn't released until the 70s, around 70s or 80s. Why? Because that book was so powerful in that moment, that Napoleon Hill feared he was going to get assassinated because of the wisdom and the knowledge that he dropped. That's how powerful that book was. And it talks about everything that we go through, about the addictions, about watching your parents do things and eventually you follow through with that. So like I said, that to me is a book that will waken your mind up. And then there's a bunch of other books that are amazing. And we can hit that spirituality part, where it's called The Greatest Salesman of the World. It's called by O.G. Mandino, who talks about some powerful things, not wasting your day, not being afraid. And then you got The Biggest Miracle in the World by O.G. Mandino too. That's a very spiritual book that awakens your mind, because sometimes we don't understand the biggest miracle in the world is us, because we're a blessing to be here. We're a blessing to other people. We get the opportunity to do something different. And there's a lot of people who don't get that opportunity, who never make it to be born, who die in the process at a young age. People who are living life and something happens and they're not here no more. So you gotta see that you're the biggest miracle in the world, because you have opportunity to do something different, because you can be a blessing to other people. Shoot, there's so many books we could talk about that, Think and Grow Rich, all these books that are super, the 4 Agreements, books that can change your life. And I love that. I love books, man. And that's something to me that impacted my life so much, is reading. And it brought me through this journey of spirituality and connecting with myself, connecting one with the earth, showing love. People say, I tell people I'm a hippie at this point, but we can go into bigger parts of where it's going to lead you to when you're really locking into it, But being that black sheep is nothing to be scared of. It's nothing to fear. Embrace it. Go after it. If you're the black sheep, don't fold. Don't go back. Don't dim your light. Because one day, you won't be called the black sheep anymore. You'll be called the one who changed the bloodline. Think about that. The one who changed the bloodline. Right now, you're misunderstood. And like I said, that's okay. Because eventually, everything that you did, you're going to see the fruits. This is Legacy Leaders, where we don't talk about success. We talk about becoming the person your family needed, but never had. Stay solid. Stay chosen. I'm out.